Championship football is back, and Middlesbrough did not disappoint as they headed to Deepdale to take on Preston North End. More than 5,600 supporters headed to Deepdale to watch the Championship clash on Saturday afternoon in a contest which didn't disappoint, with Middlesbrough playing out a 2-2 draw with Preston on the afternoon. Now, Middlesbrough had been plagued by a sickness bug in the days leading up to it, and it did have a bit of an impact on the team that Rob Edwards was able to pick. Dale Fry missed out on the other squad. Delano Bergzorg did as well. And there was a couple of other decisions which came into the starting 11, with it being the international break and that sort of thing. But first of all, it's worth noting it was great to see Darragh Lenihan starting the game. It was his first start in almost 2 years, following a really injury-ravaged time for the Irish defender. So it was great to see him back in the starting 11. But as far as the contest itself was concerned, didn't get off to the best of starts for Middlesbrough. We did have a fair bit of the ball in the first half, but Preston defended well, and they looked very much in control of it. And to be fair to Preston, they've made a really good start to the season. They've been really impressive in the opening weeks, and it was always going to be a difficult contest. And Middlesbrough had a bit of the ball, but they weren't really able to get it into the final third. Morgan Whittaker, Callie Sen and Tommy Conway, who were the attacking trio who started the game, they all looked a little bit isolated. It was quite difficult to for them to really sort of impose themselves on the contest, and ultimately it was Preston who got the opening goal in the first half. A bit of sloppy defending, really. Middlesbrough did look a bit rusty in that first half, maybe a little bit of a hangover from the international break, and it was Lewis Dobbin who got the goal for Preston with quite an easy finish, really. They played straight through Middlesbrough's midfield. Dobbin picked up the ball. He drove at the heart of Middlesbrough's defence. He took it round Luke Ayling and fired it into the top corner of the net. It was a really smart finish, but he had far too much time on the ball. It really quite lapsed defending. I don't think Middlesbrough got it quite right in terms of the press. Someone should have got out to him a bit sooner. I think Luke Ayling was perhaps too easy to get past in that one, and it was just a really disappointing goal and quite a sort of sobering return to Championship football after, of course, going 4 games and 4 wins to start off the season. We did have a few moments, but Middlesbrough were disappointing. The likes of Morgan Whittaker was pretty anonymous in the first half. I think for him it was a disappointing performance. I think with so many attacking players at our disposal now, obviously we signed a lot of players in the summer transfer window. With Calais Sene, with David Strelec, who was on the bench for this one against Preston. Of course, we've got Sontje Hansen, Riley McGree, Delano Bergzorg. We've got a lot of players in those attacking areas. And for Morgan Whittaker, he'll be disappointed that he wasn't able to impose himself on the game more than he did. Half-time came and Rob Edwards made one change. He brought on David Strelec for his Middlesbrough debut. He replaced Callie Sen. And I think you've got to give Rob Edwards credit for doing that. One of the main criticisms aimed at Michael Carrick during his time at the club was the fact that he didn't make changes. He wasn't able to sort of affect the flow of the game when things were going against Middlesbrough. He didn't really have the decision-making skills to make substitutions or change things tactically. But that's something that Rob Edwards promised that he'd be able to do. He's a very adaptable manager, and that's what we were sort of told, and we really saw it against Preston. The first half didn't go Middlesbrough's way at all. It was quite a disappointing half. But that change sort of changed the tide in terms of that game. Strelec came on. He was full of confidence following his international exploits. Of course, he got a goal and an assist for Slovakia against Germany during the international break. He had a chance early in the second half, which deflected out for a corner. Middlesbrough were on the up. We were pushing forward. Morgan Whittaker cut in from the right and had a left-footed effort that was blocked by the defender. It fell to Callum Britton, who found the back of the net, but the goal was ruled out for offside. And I think that was the correct decision. And not long after Morgan Whittaker was replaced, he came off the pitch and Rob Edwards put his arm around him and had a reassuring word in his ear. And you just sort of feel a little bit sorry for Morgan Whittaker at the moment because it's just not happening for him. He seems like a confidence player. I think he needs to find the back of the net to find that. He is someone who thrives on goals. He's someone who hasn't really been able to do that since he arrived at Middlesbrough. But I do think that when he finds the back of the net, he does offer something different to Middlesbrough than what some of those other attacking players do. I think he is capable of being a starter for Middlesbrough. But as we're saying, I think with so many competitors for those positions in the attacking third, I think he does face a bit of a battle to keep his place in Middlesbrough's team unless he can sort of find his shooting boots, I guess. But he was replaced by Sverre Nypan midway through the second half, and I think if we're talking about Whittaker not being able to take his opportunity, Nypan showed exactly what you need to do to take the game by the scruff of the neck. It took him around about 7 minutes to really sprinkle some magic on the match at Deepdale. He was the inspiration for Middlesbrough's equaliser. He picked up the ball on the right-hand side of the penalty area, did a quick step over, took on two Preston defenders before playing it into Tommy Conway. Now, Conway had a shot that was blocked. It fell to Matt Targett, who lashed home to make it 1-1 in front of the 5,600 away supporters. Now, Targett, he's only played 2 games for Middlesbrough, but he's got a goal and an assist already. To be fair, he's only played a game and a half because he came on at half-time against Sheffield United. So he's enjoying a great time in a Middlesbrough shirt. Things couldn't really be going much better for Matt Targett. But I think that goal, you've got to credit it to Sverre Nypan. He won't get the assist because that'll go to Tommy Conway for his shot. But Nypan was the inspiration. The composure and the quality that this lad's got is just absolutely outstanding. He's only played 3 times for Middlesbrough. He's only 18 years of age, but he just oozes class. His weight of pass, his confidence, his close control when he's dribbling past people, but also the fact that he is willing to battle back and put in tackles and scrap for his team is really, really impressive. And I don't say this lightly. Middlesbrough have had talented young players before. The Championship has seen good young players who could go on to do big things, but I really think that Sverre Nypan is someone who is capable of going on to the very highest level. It's no surprise that Man City paid £12.5 million to sign him. I think he could be an absolute superstar in the future, and hopefully for Middlesbrough we'll be able to get a little bit more out of him over the course of this season, because his quality is just there for all to see. The fact that we've seen it already in a Middlesbrough shirt is great, and I think he'll go on to nail down a spot in Middlesbrough starting 11, because quite frankly we can't have a player of his quality not in that starting 11. We need to find a place for him in that team, and I think that's exactly what will happen over the coming weeks. So Nypan was the inspiration for that goal. Middlesbrough pushed forward after that. Our tails were up. We looked like the side who were going to go on and get a winning goal. But in sort of typical Middlesbrough style, we were dealt a bit of a sucker punch late on when Jordan Storey headed home with just a few minutes left of the game. Another really sloppy goal. I think this is one part of the game that Rob Edwards won't be happy about. Middlesbrough's defending was lapsed at times. We've been really quite solid so far this season, but we were quite poor against Preston. Jordan Storey was pretty much unopposed from a corner as he rose highest to head past Soldrin. Really should have done better, and it felt like that was going to be the goal which condemned Middlesbrough to defeat, and perhaps backed up those claims of the manager of the month curse after Rob Edwards was named manager of the month for August in the EFL Championship. But again, Rob Edwards made changes. He was positive in the way that he approached things. He brought on Alan Brown, who replaced Hayden Hackney. I think that potentially happened before that goal. He'd come on. Sontje Hansen immediately came on as well, and both of those players had a big part to play in a really dramatic finale in the game. I think it was from a corner. Ball came into the box. David Strelec had a header which was saved on the line by the Preston goalkeeper. Supporters with their heads in their hands at how close it was, but the ball fell to Sontje Hansen, who pulled off a really impressive acrobatic effort. Another effort which went towards the goal line, and it was blocked by a defender. It bounced up in the air and ultimately found its way over the goal line. Now, there wasn't goal line technology at Deepdale. The ball didn't hit the back of the net, but it definitely went over the line. But to this point, we still don't really know who's going to be credited with the goal. It could be Sontje Hansen for his initial effort that was blocked, but ultimately went over the line. So does he get the goal for having that shot in the first place? Is it an own goal for the defender who blocked it? But also Alan Brown was in and amongst it as well. He tried to get his head on it to get it over the line. I'm still not entirely sure whether he got a touch on it, whether it will be credited to him. Some suggestions are that he did get his head on it. Others said that he didn't, but he was obviously played a part in blocking the defender to get it over the line. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter. Middlesbrough did get the equaliser. And I think it just goes to show that the players that Middlesbrough have brought into the club this summer are players who can change the game. That was a game that Middlesbrough would have lost last season, 100%. But the fact that we've had positive players coming onto the pitch in Alan Brown, Sontje Hansen, David Strelec, Sverre Nypan, of course, that's really positive, and I think that's something which will be a real plus for Middlesbrough this season. I think even in games when you don't play particularly well, if you do have sort of star quality at this level, you've got players who can go out there and secure a point. When you're on track to lose the game, people who can win you a game when you don't necessarily deserve it. And I think that's what you need if you're going to be challenging for promotion or for the top six. And I think for Middlesbrough, it was a good point. I don't think we deserved to win against Preston. I think a draw was probably a fair result, and I think right now, obviously, Middlesbrough are sitting top of the table at the time of recording, 4 wins from 5 games. Well, that's 13 points from 15. And I think if you'd asked anyone if they'd take that at the start of the season, they absolutely would. And I think this point is being celebrated by Middlesbrough supporters. Yes, it would have been great to have won it and made it 5 wins in a row in the Championship. I think that would have been the first time ever that Middlesbrough have been able to do that. We weren't quite able to do that, but I think the point was a really good one. The unbeaten start to the Championship season continues. We're not talking about Doncaster, of course. I should just put that with a little asterisk in the comments section. We're not talking about Doncaster. That night didn't happen. It doesn't exist. We're unbeaten so far this season, and I think for me it was a real positive, and one which means that we do go into the home match with West Brom at the Riverside Stadium next Friday night. Unbeaten and in a really good place. So I was really happy with that point. It felt like a good draw. It felt like a good point and a spirited performance, even if it wasn't a good or perfect performance by any means. So that's what I think. I want to know what you think about Middlesbrough's performance. What did you think of Sverre Nypan? What did you think of Darren Strelec, who made his Middlesbrough debut? Drop into the comments below. Let me know what you thought of Middlesbrough's 2-2 draw with Preston North End. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do hit like. Please do hit subscribe as well, and I will catch up with you next time.